Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a sunflower. This was part of a Facebook challenge photo contest. We're doing a day in the life photo contest, and Christina Toy won with this beautiful photograph with sunflowers. So we're going to be painting it today, and thank you to Christina for providing our photo today. Got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's been in chat for our live show, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer them. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I am starting with a 9 by 12 inch canvas. This is a Belgian linen canvas from Fredrix Pro Series. The canvas is 9 by 12, but you can use whatever size you want. And I've coated it with a light gray, kind of a medium gray. So I mixed up Ultramarine Blue and burnt umber in equal parts, and then added some of the unbleached titanium to get this color. But it really doesn't matter as long as you've just got kind of a medium gray to start with. It'll just help us out going forward. Our brushes today, we're just going to need a few. We're going to need kind of a large one for some of our background work. I've got a few different sizes of flat type brushes. These two are brights with the shorter bristles, and then this one is the longer bristles, 12, 8, and 4 sizes, and then which is probably like 1 inch, ½ inch, and 3/8, probably something like that. These are all Princeton brushes. The green handles are the Summit series, and the black handles are their Aspen series. The Aspen series is just a little bit firmer, a little bit more coarse hair fibers. Hairs, or I don't know. Bristles. There we go. That's the word. And then I've got a 6 angle bright, a 4 filbert, and a 2 round. And these two are probably going to be mainly for our flower petals. I've also got a smaller round, a 2/0 round for some of the smaller details on the flower petals, and a 3/8 inch angle brush. And I forgot to get my other angle brush, my 1/4 inch angle brush. We're going to need both of those probably. So 1/4 inch angle brush also. And the red handles are their Velvet Touch line. And then I've got a 3/8 inch Willows blender mostly for the center detail. I'm going to try to simplify the flower a little bit. We're not going to do like photorealism, but it'll be somewhat realistic. Maybe a little bit on the impressionist side. What's the matter? Okay. Uh-oh, we got a loose puppy in the studio. Just came running in. We've got our door open because we've had no air conditioning for 2 days. So yay, that's been fun. So yeah, it's really hot in the studio today. Hopefully we'll be getting a new unit tomorrow.
And not just because of you.
Huh?
And not just because of you.
Not, yeah. Okay. Go for the colors. Carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide. What color is that? Indian Yellow Hue, Cadmium Yellow Light and Medium, Cadmium Orange, Cadmium Red Light, Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, and Phthalo Green Yellow shade. This is Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, and this is some glazing medium. My camera, or my palette, is all kind of wonky today. Oh no. There we go. I'm not sure why. Probably got bumped. Spray that, and with all these fans going, my paints are going to dry out real fast, so we may have to put them on a couple more times, so we'll see. All right, so I'm going to use this large brush, and I'm just going to be sort of dry brushing on this wood grain texture. The gray background will kind of give us a head start. I'm going to get some burnt umber and some yellow oxide and a little bit of the phthalo green. And this weathered wood has got a little bit of like a, greenish tint from being left outside. Oh, as far as the drawing goes, basically you're going for an oval here to fill in, and with the sunflower, your outside diameter of the inner diameter of, is that the diameter from here to here? I don't know. Anyhow, that part is usually somewhat equal to the longest petals. So say like here to here, this one is tilted a little bit. So we're not seeing it full faced, right? It's tilted slightly. So these are going to be their longest petals out here, and they're double layered. So I've just kind of drawn it all in already. The ones that are facing us here are going to be shortened and a little stubbier. I'm not going to draw the whole thing out. this is going to already be stretching us for a time on a Tuesday night. So I'm just going to get to painting here. But if you do need to draw it out, the reference photo is on my social media, Instagram. You can take a screenshot of the opening credits of the video and use that. I'll have the traceable available on my Patreon too. So, okay. So, and just the main thing is like on here, you're going to want your vanishing point to be going off way out this way. All of these are kind of narrowing slightly as they come off. You can see how the difference between especially this one and this one, how much more narrow this board is getting as it's going off the edge. Okay, let's get to painting here. A little bit of burnt umber, yellow oxide, and a little bit of green here. And I'm going to keep it fairly dark, and I'm just going to use this ruler to do along here. And it's all pretty, since this is sort of a weathered fence, we've got a lot of imperfections in the wood, I could say. So you can kind of play with this. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to just go ahead and use the edge of it upright here and just let that brush in some darker along there. And then maybe along here, I'm going to get a little, maybe even black here. This one's a little bit darker than that other one was. The other one was getting a little bit of sunlight on it. This one's really dark. This one's really dark. And if you want to, what you can do is like just do the whole background and then trace on or draw on your sunflower. You won't have to stop to do that. So I'm going to be painting around mine, but feel free to do what works for you here. I'm going to get some of this other color here, maybe a little bit of white, a little bit more gray down here. In this bottom section, I'm just going to set it down and kind of pull inward, seeing just a little bit of the inside of that line there. Okay, there we go. All right, and then let's just go ahead and kind of add some of these lines this way. So the wood grain in the back parts are going up and down. And then this one is going to be going side to side. Here, so all of this is going to be up and down. Really, this one's not that brown. It's more like blue. So it'd be fun. We'll get to play with some blues here. And the wood is really a pretty big part of the whole look of this one. So I'm going to take a little bit of time with it just to get it right. And get a little bit of white here with my unbleached titanium. I'm going to be spraying this like every other second here just to keep my paints and brush moist. I don't want too much water in this though, because I do want a dry brush, so it's kind of tricky but I don't want it to be completely dry. So we'll just have to. All right, I think I'm going to use this brush. I think it'll give me just a little bit more control over some of this. So I'm going to get some of the highlight color now. And do some long brush strokes. And I'm just getting it on the very tip of the brush. Pay attention to the way the board shifts a little bit. So it kind of starts out angled this way, but then about in the middle here, it starts to go more up and down. This section is facing us a little closer. It's a little closer to us. It's going to be more upright. Okay, using the edge of my brush here. And I wouldn't worry about too much at this point, each individual brush stroke. Just kind of get some paint down here. And the layering is what's going to really cause it to have some depth. So just kind of keep on going with this layer, layer, layer. And eventually it should get to where it's kind of looking like some wood here. Just make sure you're kind of getting some broken lines with it every now and then. Pick up a little bit of different color maybe. Do a really light touch on it so that it skims the canvas. That skimming is what's going to give it that broken edged look. And the more paint you get on here, the more layers you get on here, the more texture you're going to get. And so your subsequent layers are going to be even better. You're going to get even more of this really good like texture happening. So I'm going to go and like highlight this edge of the board because this one is the one that's we're seeing. This board is this dark part. So this highlighted edge will be right along this board here. Same thing with this. There's going to be a highlighted edge right here. So we'll do that one real good. And make sure you're going over the top of this board so you don't have to come back and add that later. Put some yellow here. A little bit of the burnt umber. That warmer brown here. And not all of it has a lot of wood grain. Some of the wood is a little bit more solid, so that's okay too. Just kind of vary it. Doesn't have to be exactly like the photograph. As long as you get kind of the main look of it, you're going to be fine. It's amazing what your eye will kind of fill in the blanks, you know. I'm going to get some gray now, maybe some more brown, and just added it to my whites there. And adding a little bit of the gray right there and a little bit of it back here because I kind of covered it up right there. And let's go ahead and start working on this one here. So I'm going to use this and do some of this darker gray. You can see the difference between the gray in the background and this one. Let's go ahead and use some of this gray down in here.
So how you doing over there, babe?
Huh?
How you doing?
I'm okay so far. I was getting kind of hot a minute before we started, but moving that TV out of the way so I could see, or I could get some of that fan on me. It's better.
Okay.
My paints are drying out real fast. I think I'm going to have to probably add some more fresh paint, especially those yellows are going to dry out before I get to them, I'm sure. I keep spraying them, hope for the best.
This is how the pioneers did their YouTube stuff.
What?
This is how the pioneers did their YouTube stuff.
Is that how the pioneers did it?
Yep.
Before air conditioning?
Yeah, they had the fans going.
Did it.
So.
Yeah. They had their children holding the fans up. We blew Liam's mind today. We had family all this weekend, and our little grandson was with us. And this morning he found my folded hand fan, and it's like blew his mind. I don't think he'd ever seen one. So it's like, what is that for? Yeah, it was a good weekend. Hope you guys had a good weekend too. It was Labor Day weekend for us. It was a great weekend to have family and then not have air conditioning. So it worked out perfect.
Of course, planned perfectly.
Huh?
Just planned out perfectly.
Yeah, we planned it out just right.
That's just so they don't stay so long. Oh, sorry. Air conditioner broke.
Oh, no. So bad. Sorry.
So, what was the background color again?
Unbleached titanium, and this most like a pretty good long amount of that. So I just put it kind of in a long line, and then just a small dollop of burnt umber and ultramarine blue, which is what I've been using over here. Sorry, I don't think I said that when I was talking. Ultramarine Blue. I just added it into this brown that we've got over here, brown black. Just kind of putting some of it on this upper area here. This one's got more shade. And this one here especially has some grain. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of do the grain in these little small like lines. There's these little lines that going through it. And I'm going to add more colors, obviously, but I'll start it that way. It's the only one that I'm really seeing a lot of that particular kind of look. Let me get some more of this gray, a little bit of brown, burnt umber, black, and blue. Get in here and do some around this board here. This is pretty dark. Through here. More blue here, more brown, black, that gray that I was just using, more blue, pretty dark. And then I'm going to get some blue and take it right over here to that black and brown. Maybe even a little bit of the magenta, a little bit of a purpley tone. Right up underneath this stem there. And start on this board. It goes this way. Use the edge of my brush here. Some lines. And then it's just going to take a few layers to get it start looking good. First few layers are just not going to look right, so just kind of know that going in. It's going to look pretty bad until it looks better. So it's kind of a normal part of the process. Just takes time to build up those layers and get them looking right. I think that's where a lot of beginners sort of panic as they get painting. They get to that kind of ugly stage of their painting and they get a little discouraged. They feel like they're doing it wrong or something, but it just takes time. And, you know, it's not going to look like mine. You're just going to kind of think if you go in with realistic expectations for yourself and kind of realize, you know, if you're brand new to painting, that it may take you a few paintings for it to start to come together. So don't sweat it if it's, you know, if it's kind of a little bit frustrating and doesn't really feel like you're doing it right at first, because that's pretty much normal with anything. If you think of any kind of skill that you have learned over your, you know, life, you never did, you know, pick it up, well, unless you were some sort of savant, I'm sure you didn't just sit down at the piano one day and could play it perfectly, Same thing with painting. It's just going to take some time for you to get comfortable with it and get good at it. And it'll eventually get there, but you just got to kind of practice. Practice is the best thing to do. Get that brush and just put the paint on the canvas or paper or whatever you're using and do it as much as you can until you kind of start feeling comfortable with it. And then the things that I'm telling you to do will kind of make a little bit more sense maybe. But right at first, it may be a little bit frustrating.
I consider myself a savant.
Are you a savant?
And sleeping.
Sleeping?
And doing nothing.
Well, I've always been pretty good at that too. Too bad that's not considered a talent.
I'm just gifted.
Maybe it is in some circles. I'm gifted that way. Mm-hmm. So lucky.
Yeah, in fact, I'm almost just as good at just watching people work. So yeah,
watching people work.
Yeah, that's one of my other gifts for sure. So in no particular order: nothing, sleeping, watching others work.
No, I think you're talking about me right now. I'm the queen of the sleepers in our house. Notice he's not saying anything.
So, no questions so far.
No questions?
I'm not changing the subject or anything.
No. Mm-hmm.
And the canvas size is a 9x12?
Yes. I'm just laying down some of this black here in some areas. Mainly in our shadow areas, trying to get those kind of dark. So. I have a knot here, so I'm just kind of pulling in from the outside a little bit there. And I've got this brush here sitting with paint in it, so I need to see if I can get what's on here off and then clean it out. Don't want to do that. It's not good. It's been sitting there a while. I'm going in between those sections that I've done already here. That board. Okay. Let's get more blue. I'm all sweaty. It's not a good time for our AC to go out. Middle of summer, Arkansas. It's 90 degrees here today. Guess it could be worse. We could be in California. They've been having over 100. Or it was like 120 something in LA County for the first time ever. All right, so picked up some of this gray, brown, black, blue, and then I dipped it into this white that I've got over here. So kind of a light blue. And I'm just going to kind of lay my brush almost flat here and drag it through that dark paint, leave some of that dark edge. And probably what we're going to do is once we get the sunflower painted in, we'll glaze around it to darken up this whole area even more. But okay, get some more of that. And I'm going to get a little bit of the green. Is that... It's kind of a turquoisey blue. Probably could have used phthalo blue looking at it. I didn't put it on my palette list, so you can use phthalo blue here if you want a little bit more turquoise. And then I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to waggle it this way. This is what it's going to do. It's going to create these kind of weird, broken bits of paint. And this may not be the right color for this, but we'll just let it be. You can change it later. Color is easy to change pretty much. You can glaze over to change. So don't be afraid of experimenting. The nice thing about acrylics is that they layer really well. You can layer all kinds of color on color. The more the better, I feel like. Okay. This side had a little bit more of that lighter color, but that's all right. Let's see that over here. See how the blue already makes it look like a shadow? Isn't that cool? How that works? Blue is a cooler color. It's going to look like a shadow. It's just your eye. It's just the way the colors work in life. Your eye sees that and interprets it for you. You don't have to really do a whole lot. A little bit of the lighter blue right there. Okay. And I'm definitely going to come back here and glaze some darker shadows on here, but I'm going to let this set first because it's not going to do it really well until that's dry. So we'll just keep moving on here. I'm going to use some of this blue in here and this right there. I'm not really loving this. We'll figure it out. Get some of the unbleached titanium, a little bit of the white. Oh, we got some yellow there. Did not mean to do that. That's all right. I'll just mix it in with that blue. It'll turn it kind of green. Get some white. This area down here, I'm going to use a corner of my brush. And put that in. This area looks like it had some paint or something on it, maybe at some point. It's just weathered this way. It's kind of got that yellow patina of a green. Maybe it's some moss growing right here. Who knows? Something making it look kind of yellow. I'm just going to try to get kind of a long line there.
We got a few questions.
Okay.
The first question is do you ever frame your art, and do you have any advice on where they could get frames for these canvas sizes?
I do. I get them at different places. The 9x12's not one that's generally stocked at the frame stores, you know. It's kind of a little bit of an odd size. So those I usually get online at Dick Blick, and I've got a link down in the description for the Blick website. I get the open back frames, and they have several different ones there. I don't know that they're, I can't remember how much they are. They're not as cheap as you would get like at a store. I'm pulling down a little bit right here with this highlight color to mark that curve of the top of that board. I guess it's up here. Where is it on this one? Yeah, it's like right here. So there, or like, you know, Hobby Lobby is usually, if I'm using like an 8x10 or something, most sizes, they'll have most of the standard sizes, you know, there, and they have an open back frame. The tip with the framing is that if you get it at Hobby Lobby, you can get the discount on the frames, even if it's not on sale, if you have them frame it for you. And it costs like $2 or $3 for them to put the wire on the back. So even if the canvas is not on sale, if they do it for you, they give you the discount. Give it, because their framing is discounted. If that makes sense. So I don't know. It's a workaround. So it's a way to get a discount on a frame without having to wait for the actual sale. So pro tip there.
And then I got another question. They would like to know which brush has the harder or more coarse bristles.
The Aspen do. There. You see that. Same color now. We've got all these nice dark colors on here. I'm just going to do what I did before and kind of waggle that brush side to side and let it kind of catch on the edge here. And maybe do some grain, slight angle to it. Dog barking in the background there, sorry. He can hear me talking, so he's trying to get my attention, I think. But Mom, Spencer's got me held hostage. I'm trying to get to you. I'll be right there. Oh man, we had fun though this weekend. It was good. That's a puppy mind blown. Got to meet a child for the first time and another dog, and bless his heart, the dog that came is blind. He was doing his hard. He was working so hard trying to get her to play with him, and she couldn't see any of his little maneuvering. It was very cute.
And she's also about 4 times his size.
4 times the size and 4 times his old. She was like 14, 15, something like that. So she's.
Yeah. So Fitz would run at her and like just graze her or bark, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's got that high pitched bark, and she's got this low, just woof. And man, yeah, Fitz would take off running.
Yeah, he'd take off running. It's like, okay. Oh, no. Okay. All right, so I made a green, kind of some of this green, a little bit of the yellow and the burnt umber here. I've got these other blues and everything in my brush, so I'm not cleaning it out. In between, just kind of adding new colors on top of colors. And these colors are getting, you know, kind of muddy, and that's fine because this is really, the board is kind of muddy browns and things. So, okay. I need to get some streaks going on here that I'm going to kind of make a little bit of sense. So, Try to work some lines in here. Woo. Burnt umber. Yeah, so we got a fun time. It was good. My dad even came down, so that was awesome. We hadn't seen him since Christmas. And he's feeling pretty good. Going through cancer treatment, so it's touch and go, but he's hanging in there. Wanted to see little Liam. Our great grandbaby, first of the greats. Okay. I was going through and kind of adding some random going underneath this board. I'm going to definitely have to probably maybe darken this one up here because there's no separation between these two boards. So I'm just going to kind of go along here and add some dark along that bottom edge there. So you can see that that's a separate board from this direction. Okay. Okay, and then let's go ahead and grab the round. Get some black, burnt umber, a little bit of the purple here with the Ultramarine Blue and Quinacridone Magenta. And I'm going to use it fairly loosely, so I'm holding it farther back. If you hold it farther back, you get a little bit of looser line, so I don't want it to be too tight here. I'm just going to kind of go along here and let it kind of do a little jaggedy line. If we do it too tight, it's going to look kind of artificial. So we want to keep it loose so that it creates kind of that broken line that we're seeing in the wood. And you can go back over. I might even use this brush here. Get some of this yellow, maybe a little bit of the white. This kind of muddy brown right here. And go back in and add some of that over the edges of some of this. It's just a matter of kind of putting color on and covering part of it up and then putting a little bit more on and covering part of that up and going back and forth until you get it to where you kind of like it. So okay. Move it in a little bit, a little bit more. How you doing, hon?
I'm doing well.
Glaze here. this dark color. What?
Oh, you asked me a question, so I was trying to answer.
Sorry. No.
You're like, psych.
Psych.
I didn't want to actually talk to you.
Took too long.
Because we know there's all those people out there that don't want to hear me.
I can't hear you at all.
Because I know all the people that hear you.
There's so much noise in the studio today.
It is absolutely amazing that with the audio filter, you cannot hear the fans.
You can't?
No.
Well, good. They're really loud. And they're drying out my paint, but otherwise I would pretty much melt. So gotta have it. All right, I'm gonna do some. Those are way too thick. Taking just kind of wet paint here and just sort of wiping those through. Blend them in a little bit. Darkening up this whole area here. I didn't like those stripy things that I was doing there, so I'm just going to kind of brush through it instead. Get some more of the Ultramarine Blue. I'm going to kind of indicate those stripes, but I'm not going to do them as obvious as I had them before. I think it's going to look better. Just to have them just the hint of it and keep going off the camera. Well, that completely dried up. I'm going to dab it and just let some of my brush kind of pull off onto the canvas. And the trick is to not get that kind of round brush look. So trying to mask it a little bit. Just like that. Coming back in now with the edge of the brush to do some of these vertical lines. And we're just going to have to let that dry because the more I'm trying to put on, the more muddy it's becoming. It's lifting a little bit of the Okay, I need to move on because we've been 45 minutes on just this one painting. Good one. All right. Let's add some dark to the center of this. I'm going to get a little bit of the magenta, cad red light. That'll make it like a bright red, cherry red, and then adding the burnt umber and burnt sienna to it to darken it up. And then add that right here. Mostly on this side. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a little bit of the Indian yellow and add it over here too. I'm not really worried too much about this. It's just going to be undertones underneath. But I'll put this down first, and then we'll have it ready when we're wanting to do our upper layers. Get some green here for the center of this. Going outside the border a little bit. Okay. Try to clean it out as much as I can. Set it aside, clean it after the show. See where I let it dry while I was holding it in my hand right there. You can see that dry paint all the way through. That's not, you want to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the Filbert here, the number 4. You want to start with the largest brush that'll fit in the area that you're painting, and then work to the smaller. So I'm going to get kind of the yellow, gold, Indian yellow, cadmium yellow medium, and a little bit of the phthalo or the yellow oxide. The yellow oxide will just tone it so that it's not such a in-your-face bright color. And this definitely needs a little bit of white. See how it's not covering. If I add a little white to it, it will start covering better. See that? A lot of times when people are like, my yellows are not, good or whatever, it's not that. It's just that yellows are, they're the lightest color in your toolbox, so they're not going to cover up the darker colors very well. You're going to have to use a little bit of white.
So real quick, back when you were doing the red part of the flower, what brush were you using?
That was just this one, the Willow's Blender, I think.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's just filling it in. Any brush will do for that part. I've got a couple layers here, but I'm still trying to kind of get those petals in as I'm putting them. So I'm like, letting a little bit of that show there. I'm going to get a little bit of this red from the center and add it to this yellow that I'm using. I'm going to use it right here to tone these petals down here. Okay, and get some more of that yellow. These dark areas are really important, and I'm using that same colors centered, so it'll kind of blend out that, fuzz out that line between them, and it'll look, soften it up and make it look a little bit more natural there. So be sure to mix up a little bit extra so you can use it for these petals to shade them and stuff. I think there's a petal in there that I missed. Just keep on going here. In between, there's some green, so I'm going to get some green down here. Tap in a little bit of that. A few of our darkest areas have got green and this color together. Right in here. I pick the areas between the petals. That's where you're going to see this dark stuff happening. And if it feels too dark, it's probably just about right. Because at this point, we don't have all of our values in there. We don't have the upper layers in. We're doing the dark areas. So the tendency is to go too light because your eye tends to see the lighter colors first. You know, the colors that are on top. And you tend to not get your darks dark enough. And then if you do that, if you don't have your darks rich and dark and deep, then when you put your light colors on top, they'll look flat. They won't have anything to contrast that color against. So go a little bit darker than you think you need to. And same thing with your highlights. Go a little bit lighter than you think you to with your highlights maybe. And usually they'll be just about right. You can always go back in and darken up your shadows a little bit more too. So keep that in mind. You can go back in with glaze and darken up your shadows if you need to. But try to get them about right if you can. I may need to put my green stem in there too at this point. I'm using the edge of my brush now, just kind of drawing some highlights. I'm not too worried about the highlights at this point, but I've got this on my brush. I'm just going to go and use it a little bit. You can see this kind of soft look. This is kind of what I'm going to go for with this one. I don't think I'm going to go much more in detail. We'll do a couple more layers on these petals, but I think we're going to keep them kind of a little bit more of the looser style. We'll make it a little bit of the cadmium orange there. Mix that in for these ones down here. These ones are all pretty orange and pretty dark. The highlights hitting up here, and then just a few of the tips of the petals on these ones. I've got these nice dark areas in here. I'm going to get a little bit more of that dark color to do right in here. And that's probably too dark, but that's all right. We'll fix it.
Okay, what brush are you using right now?
This is the number 4 Filbert in the Summit series. It's about a 3/8 inch Filbert. There's a petal in here. Yeah, at this point, you're going to kind of start getting, you know, all these petals are going to kind of merge into one big blob of color, which is fine. But if you lose your place, you can always go back in after you've done this and add another layer of detail with your transfer paper. So that's why I suggest people draw on paper first. If you're going to draw it yourself, don't do it straight onto canvas, because then when stuff like this happens, when you need to go back in and add your details back in, your drawing is on, you know, a totally separate paper. So you can just trace your drawing onto tracing paper and then use that with your transfer paper to put your design on. I use transfer paper in a lot of my silhouette paintings, so if you've never done it, you can watch like my deers, like the stag deer that we did a couple months ago. That one had used transfer paper, showed how to do it. So I missed right in here. Oops. Blah. Blah, blah. I missed right in here with that dark color, so I'm just going to get my brush here and just add that dark in there. Go. Use that dark color that's on there already. Use that up. All right, let's keep on going here. So the sunflowers are really fun to paint. They're not really too difficult to paint. The flower petals are these long, kind of pointed, and they taper and fold in a little bit. They're like they're pinched almost, where they go into the flower, and then they open up in the middle and go long, and then they gradually taper to a kind of a blunted point. So not too difficult, I don't think. There's a tank. That's toned on here. You can see I'm not being particularly careful about the ends here either. They're kind of, you know, going into this area here. And if you look really closely, it's where they attach is a very zigzag line. It's not clean. So I don't need to have it be a really perfect straight circle. That's not really accurate. So if you're going for realism, I just keep an eye on that. I've done plenty of sunflower paintings that were way more stylized sunflowers. One of my very first paintings on YouTube is a really stylized sunflower that I did for my kids' class. So if that's more your style and you want a super easy sunflower, you can do that. And then maybe work your way up to this one. This one's probably a middle difficulty, I'd say. It's not one of the easiest ones I've done. It's got a lot of petals. And we're putting it in more of a realistic style. So getting a little bit of that. One there. I think we're getting the colors pretty close to the right values. If you see in a photograph, I always kind of look at it as you work and check. Can you step back from it a little bit? That helps you see it a little bit more clearly. It's harder to see when you're like right in the middle of it. Just using the same combo of the yellow oxide, Indian yellow hue. The Indian yellow hue's got a little bit of a gold tone, and then cadmium yellow medium is more of the gold-ish, orangish of the cadmium yellows. Get a little bit more of the brighter gold here. The cadmium yellows are opaque-ish. They still don't cover all that well against really dark colors, but they're considered an opaque color. But the yellow, Indian yellow, is not opaque, so it's really transparent. I think this comes out this way, actually. Try that again. Okay. It's drying out on me as soon as I get it on here.
We're doing it for the fans, babe.
What?
We're doing it for the fans.
R.
Ha ha ha. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
I am so funny sometimes. I'll let you know when that happens.
Okay. Yeah, it's darker. It's probably too dark there, but we'll fix it later. It's got some dark coming in there. Definitely super sticky. Okay, good now. Get some of this lighter orangey color here and stick it into these here. Adding a little bit of this Cadmium Red Light, a little bit of the Cadmium Orange over here, just to kind of bump up the saturation of the colors just a little bit. Give it a little bit more of a brightness. You don't have to do that everywhere, but if you just kind of do it a little bit here and there, it'll really kind of make your painting pop if you have just a little bit of an intense color here and there. If you did it everywhere, it would lose its intensity because it would become, you know, a big red sunflower. But if you kind of just strategically use some strategery here and just kind of every now and then flick in a little bit of a more intense color, it really kind of brings it to life. And that's kind of the artist, the fun of painting is you're kind of in control of that. Artist prerogative. You can kind of alter reality a little bit, make it a little unique to you, your style.
So I think I'm going to turn the filters off for a second so everybody can hear what we're hearing right now.
Okay.
Just so they know what's going on. So,
yeah.
All right, here we go. Let me find my mouse.
I can hear you.
Okay, here we'll do it in 3, 2, 1. Filters off.
Are you talking to me? No. It's pretty loud in here.
So that's what it sounds like with all the fans running.
Oh, it's awesome.
And filters back on.
Okay. I'm having really hard times with I told you so moments here. So just going to say that. So we had the electrician out last week, the week before last. And Mark and him made this awesome plan, you know, like our air conditioning is completely on the fritz. And they're like, let's do it in February. And I'm like, what the heck? He's like, here today.
Your microphone's not working for some reason.
Okay. All right.
So
that's all I'm saying. Like right now, I'm just like a little bit irritated.
You're breaking up.
Uh-huh. I'm ratting you out, honey. You and our electrician.
I was trying to save some money.
Okay. So since we'd already saved up for it, I'm not really sure why you were trying to save it, but that's okay.
And I saved so much money I could go out and buy a window unit.
Right. Exactly. We had to spend $500 on a window unit so we could. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to say anymore because I'm just saying this is what's going through my head right now as I'm sweating.
All right. So back to the art.
Everybody feels really bad for you right now because they know how mad I am. All right, yellow, cadmium yellow, and burnt umber here. I'm going to use this in here. That's nice for a darker shadow in there. And just kind of doing something other than just the orange everywhere. Really kind of keeping on adding these darker areas until we get it. I think that's good. I'm going to clean that out. And then while that's drying, because I want it to really dry well before we put any more layers on top, I'm going to go ahead and do my stem here. I'm just going to use these same colors and just add it to my phthalo green. So grab these colors that we are already using, and you'll find that in nature that I don't know if it's just like the plants and animals have this color. It's like they have this color story going on in them, and they reuse colors, in amongst things. So using the same yellows, that yellow golds here in the stem, you'll find that it's the same color in other parts of the plant. It's pretty subtle, so I wouldn't do too much detail on it. It's pretty. It's right in there somewhere, I think. And there's a little bit of that color right in there. Getting the burnt umber. Use it at the bottom of the stem from the shadow, and with it's wet, so it's just gonna pick up that color, blend it a little bit, put a little bit of a shadow on that the part of the stem. There's a couple little knots in the stem there, I guess, where the light part of the stem, or the probably leaves were cut off or something. I'm gonna get some white here. I'm just gonna drag some white through, and this is again kind of going into that wet paint, so it's gonna smear around. It's probably a little bit bright, but I'm gonna wipe my brush off, and I'm just gonna brush back over that, and it's gonna pick some of that up. And I'm really just tapping because I don't want to brush through it too much and lift off too much paint. So by just kind of tapping it, it's just going to kind of sponge off a little bit of that paint on that brush. Okay, that's good. That's good. I love the perspective of this photograph. It's really dramatic how that sunflower's coming right at us. Really pretty. So let's go ahead and since this is all dry here, and while we're still letting this dry, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of ultramarine blue and tiny dab of my Quinacridone Magenta there, and some of my burnt umber, maybe even a little bit of black. I want it to be mostly blue though, so don't add too much black. I want it to look blue. Okay, so that's good there. I add my glazing medium add quite a bit of glazing medium here. And I'm going to go right up underneath this stem here. All on here. And I've got this all the way through my brush. So I want to gently kind of wipe it out right here. You can use your finger. You can use another paper towel if you want to. But you want it to be like darkest right up at the top and then kind of gradually fade out. This one is actually pretty easy to do because it's so rustic. We can just kind of let it, look at that. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Now let's do over here the same deal right there. I'm going to do it on the top board this time. This board's getting some light right here. This board's got some shadows, so I'm going to actually just pull upward and kind of let it fade out. Up. And kind of dry brush it up in here a little bit. Just what's on my brush. Get some texture. Nice. Let's get some really dark down in here. So I can shape around these petals here too. If I've gotten them too far out or whatever. This one comes in quite a bit actually. There. Okay, so see how we've got this kind of bump, bump, bump. So we want to blend that out. I'm just going to wipe my brush out. This paint's still wet here. I'm just going to use this damp brush and just kind of scrub that edge out a little bit. And push that paint around. It'll lift off some of it and push it around. And if we lift off too much of it, we can always put it back in. So it's still kind of looking like that. So I'm just going to take some paint and kind of brush it down into that and kind of blend it out a little bit. There we go.
Got a paint question. They would like to know if they don't have Indian yellow, what could they use instead?
They don't have yellow?
Yeah, the Indian yellow.
Oh, Indian yellow. I thought you said any yellow. I was like, well, that's probably going to be pretty hard. Being that it's a primary color. Can't be mixed. Sucks for you. Sorry. No, I'm joking. If you don't have Indian yellow, just use, if you've got like a cadmium yellow, here's the undertones. Let me show you. If you've got like quinacridone gold's close. It's kind of a creamy with the white there, but you can see the gold undertones in it. You could probably add a little bit of quinacridone or cadmium orange to your cadmium yellow medium and get something. I added too much orange, but you can kind of see that's basically it's just a gold. So it's just a shortcut. I use a lot of colors. You'll see some artists they don't have a big palette, but then they're doing time lapse. They're not doing them live a lot of times when they do that. So I don't have time to mix every color. It just is faster for me to have them already pre-mixed, but most of these colors can be really, you could use either cadmium yellow light or probably cadmium medium in this case, with burnt sienna, black, quinacridone magenta, cadmium red light, and ultramarine blue, and mix the rest of the colors fairly close. The phthalo blue, you probably either phthalo blue or phthalo green. also Phthalo Blue is the other kind of must-have color that's because you can add phthalo or yellow to the phthalo blue to get a phthalo green. So can't get phthalo green with ultramarine blue. It's too it makes muddy greens. It's got too much purple in it. When you add yellow to it, it turns dark. All right, so we got our shadows on here. Oh, I was gonna do another layer. Sorry, I'm starting yellows here. Got distracted. I'm gonna do one more layer of kind of a turquoise. So I'm gonna see if I can get a turquoise with this ultramarine blue and the phthalo green. Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad at all. Let's get this. Okay. Use this up here. Use it on the stem too a little bit. Shadow out there at the end of the stem where it kind of goes off the end. And then use this kind of brighter blue-green for this front area of the board, sort of where it bends right here. Some down in here. Yeah. Okay, and get some more of the white and a little bit of unbleached titanium. I've got this teal in my brush still, so I'm kind of creating a dark. I'm going to get a little bit of brown even. I'm going to use this angle brush to really kind of almost draw the details on this board here and do kind of some slats with the highlights of these slats that come down. A little bit of light hitting it down here. The light is going to, anytime you're adding highlights, you're going to pull your eye forward to that area. So just kind of be careful where you're putting these. And highlight it on that board. And a little bit right here where it comes down over the edge in front of this and in the knot. A little bit of the blue. Right. Let's get my round brushes now. I'm going to start on the details on the petals and we'll be done.
All right.
Well, we got to do the center part too, but
yeah,
that'll go fast.
All right.
Okay, so surprisingly, this is still wet. So yay for that. I'm going to get the Cadmium Yellow Light now and my white. Yes, I had a little bit of the Cadmium Medium in there too. I'm going to find these areas where this highlight is happening all along in here. Kind of breaks these petals into parts. But there's still some streaks even in that bright areas. So I'm looking for that. I'm going to just start laying in some of this bright yellow. Now, white is going to make it more obvious. And we're probably going to go back over this with some yellow too. In some areas, I'm going to leave just the background color showing, like right in here. And some of these we're going to highlight.
So just want to remind everybody that the traceable will be available over on patreon.com/AngelaFineArt.
So I haven't done it yet. Just didn't have time with our guest just left. Like
You've been spending time
about
with
an hour or two before we started the show. So.
with Liam and his handlers.
Yes,
so
his handlers.
But anyways, yeah, it'll be available over there. And that's at the $2 level, and then there's other levels there with more paintings and more challenges and so forth. So
yeah, we're going to be doing what are we going to be doing this month? A cow. We're going to be doing a black and white cow looking into the camera real close for our bonus video this month. So that'll be fun. That'll be in a couple weeks. So there's still some time to sign up for that. That's a $5 level. The bonus videos are more advanced. So if you're a beginner, you probably, unless you just want to hang out with us for them, you probably won't be ready to paint along with us for those. But I'm not going to tell you not to, but just saying the traceable level is where I would start if you are brand new to painting. Use those to help you get a good foundation. Your foundation of the drawing is really important to the results of your painting. You'll have a lot better results if you have a good drawing to start with. And if you don't know how to draw, then the traceable is the way to go. I would definitely suggest learning to draw, but it's a totally different discipline. You don't have to know how to draw to be able to paint. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There's a lot of people out there that are like, it's paint by number. It's not paint by number, trust me. So we're paint by number. You could start 3 different artists with the exact same paint by number canvas like this, and with the traceable on, it's going to look totally different. So it's all it is a head start for those who don't know how to paint. It's just a way to get you started with art in a little bit more relaxing, easy way. You don't have to learn everything all at once. You can learn it in stages. I put one there where it's not supposed to be, so I'm going to put some fence in there because I don't want that there. I'm just going slow, adding some highlights. Really, this is probably the only area where you're seeing these really bright highlights. There's a few kind of dusting their way through here. They're kind of almost transparent, so I'm going to get a little bit of glaze and just use this glaze with the yellow to do these ones that are a little bit more translucent in these other areas here. Those should hopefully dry a little bit darker. If they don't, we can glaze back over them with the darker color, but I'm going to get a little bit of that darker color here. Bring it up.
So somebody asked, did you draw first or did you paint first when you were a young whippersnapper?
I drew first. I didn't have paints growing up, so I drew a lot. And I knew how to draw in high school, and I had a good teacher. And then I got even more drawing lessons in college. Really good book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain that I still recommend to people. Has all kinds of really good practices for learning to draw. It's in my Amazon shop, so if you look down in the description there, my Amazon shop. It's in I think it's in either the recommended books or it's in the acrylic painting supplies or both. Or art supplies, but yeah, I wanted to paint growing up. We just didn't have the supplies.
Spencer's earning his keep tonight.
Yeah, that puppy's giving him a run for his money, I think. Is he having to keep him in the kennel?
Well, no, he's been taking him outside and just trying to keep him busy.
Okay, here we go. White here. I'm just going to put white in some of these areas where I really want it to be bright And I'm going to come back in and add some yellow over the top. The white will shine through the paint. Be even more vibrant. You don't want to lose those little streaks that are in these petals, and put some of those back in there. I'm going to use some of the orangey gold, maybe with a little bit of this yellow, brighter yellow. So just a little bit lighter hue, but still in that darker tone. I'm going to put in my streaks down here in my shadow areas too. Separate the petals out. I already kind of glazed a little bit in there, but didn't quite do it as bright as I wanted it to. So I'm going to go ahead and go back in here. A little bit of my lighter color here. I think I'm just going to probably have to glaze a little bit of that darker color on in some of these areas. So I need to separate out these petals a little bit. Getting the cadmium yellow medium here. A little bit darker color for this part inside of it. These are darker down here. And then right at the very tip here, there's some light color kicking through. I'm going to do the white right here. Yeah, really going bright right there. That will turn yellow once we put the yellow on top of it, and it'll leave that intensity behind. So there. Little petal right in here. Herbs around right there. Make sure you're leaving these kind of streaks because they've got those folds in these petals, so you don't want them to be too smooth. So that's why I'm using the round brush, so you can get these kind of lines and ridges in them. Petals here. Need that darker yellow for this part. Okay, let that dry. While it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and do the centers of these. I see a little bit right here that I missed. Okay, so let's get this cadmium yellow medium. And I'm going to go ahead and use this brush here. I'm just going to dab the 3/8 inch blender and go all the way around. And leave some of that undertone showing. Now, you could do this with the smaller round brush, I guess, but to kind of, I think this will do good enough for us. If you wanted to do it with a round brush, you could do like little lines like that. And I might do some of both, you know, do a little bit of the stippling and then go back in and kind of blend out some of these and do them a little. I could pull with this. Be a little, instead of jabbing, like kind of pull with it to get a little bit of lines, but you don't want it too big, so just be careful to keep these small. So really a ton of these just all stacked up top of each other. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this color, maybe go a little bit more. I don't have any more of that Quinacridone gold or the yellow gold there. So I'm going to get some of the orange. Here's the orange. I'm going to go in and out of those petals that we've got there. Don't go over all your darkest areas, though. I want to keep those. See the yellow there. And I'm layering, I'm going up and back and side to side so that I'm not getting a solid line. Because if you just go tap, 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 tap all in a row, you end up with a really unnatural looking line. So just obscure your lines going back and forth, up and down. Always moving it. Okay, that looks good. Let me get a little bit of green. Just use the same colors here. That's orange with the green. A little bit of white, just a little. Center area there. And this is dry now, so I'm going to use my bright yellow, my cadmium yellow light. This is not a mixable color. It's got more of a bright intensity. It's almost a neon. So it's on the greener scale, but of the cadmiums, cadmium primrose, cadmium yellow, or yellow, lemon yellow, any of those are going to be similar to this. See? So I'm going to glaze over all this white here. So I'm going to kind of streak it down into the areas that don't have the white. So it blends in a little bit. Okay, and some cadmium yellow medium, maybe a little bit of the burnt sienna. And now I'm going to go back in here and add some glazing with a little bit of that darker toned. Okay. Let's use the angle brush. And get some Quinacridone Magenta. Need to get a clean spot on here because I'm going to get flakes of dry paint in my glaze. I do not want that. There we go. Quinacridone Magenta, Cadmium Red Light. See how pretty that blue red is? And then a little bit of brown just to kind of tone it down a little bit. A little bit of the cadmium yellow. Medium. Okay, we'll see how that looks. That's maybe two. I think it needs a little bit more yellow. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna have a kind of a dark orange color. I'm gonna a brownish orange. Add my glaze and glaze the heck out of this. Make sure all this is dry. And glaze in these shadows. So I've got this. I can use the corner of the brush and kind of go in between and darken up certain areas if I need to. I'm going to go on top of the center too. So right there where these two meet, I want it to be pretty obscured, and I even want it darker. Get some really dark. I'm going with a little bit of the dark on the tip of my brush. Just going to tap a little bit of that in. You may not have to do it. I kind of lost my darks in this area. I kind of added too much of that highlight over there. So I'm just going to tap back in some of the darks. And this is what's going to really bump it up a notch. And I'm going to use this little bit darker color on this side here. Glaze this whole side of the center. And glaze all these petals that are in the shade on this side. Stay away from your highlight areas, but you can create some streaks in your highlight areas with the tip of the brush if you need to. Which I do. I need to. I've lost my streaks when I did my highlights and some of those. Glaze, glaze, glaze. Glaze right here on the inside of that. Just on this side. This side's the highlight side. And the bottom edge is also highlighted right here. This side will have a little bit of that shadow. Maybe we get a little bit of green. And some green over it, right there in the dark area. Wow, that is really dark and close, huh? Okay, and then quinacridone and green. A little bit of blue. Is that real dark? magenta black color. There we go. Almost there, hon. Petals to glaze. Done. Use some of the white with the yellow here and just do some little bit. Like that. I'm trying to define some of these petals here. Getting a little bit of that yellow. It's streaking back through. Just making sure that each of these kind of has a little highlight where the petals overlap. Now that I've got my glaze on there, I can go back in and kind of perfect it a little bit, and I can go ahead and, I mean, if I want to, I could highlight these petals again with white if I needed to, now that we've glazed. May, you know, I don't want that, I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and use the cadmium yellow light here. I think we got pretty close. How does it look, hon? Mark's not paying attention. Mark's asleep over there.
More than one person has said that it looks better than the photo.
What?
More than one person has said it looks better than the photo.
Yay. Thank you to Christina for letting us use her photo. This was beautiful. It's really beautifully shot photograph. I'm going to use a little bit more white here with my yellow. And I'm just going to do just a few like indications of these little hooked stems. I think that will help. We've already got all the texture and layers and everything here. So now all we're doing is just kind of drawing attention to a few of them. Doesn't have to be all of them, just a few. And this brush may be a little bit too big. My paint's getting kind of thick. It's not wanting to go on very thin. And I am putting it on kind of thickly because I want it to cover. Yellow doesn't want to, if I thinned it down too much, which I normally would do when I'm using a liner brush or something. But in this case, I'm not thinning it down a lot. I'm going to get some cadmium yellow for this area down here. All right, I think that's good. Actually, I like that one looks like it's getting hit by light. It's not in the photograph, but I think I'm going to leave it because it works. I think it's within the realm of possibilities. So. Gonna do super chat. Go ahead and I'll finish up here while you're doing that.
Several super chatters tonight.
Hey.
Let me get that turned off there real quick, and then we'll go through them. We had one from Kristen, and I had to have her let me know phonetically. So it's Kristen Iceland. And she said, thank you both for all you give to the community.
Oh.
So thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen.
And then we had a donation from Michelle Hansen. And she had a sunflower and a heart emoji.
Yay.
And then we had a donation from Morgan Brown. And she says, I love sunflowers. Your fence looks awesome.
Thank you.
And then we had another one from Morgan Brown with an incredible emoji.
Love it.
And that was from tonight.
Oh.
And then we had another fan, Mary Houts, had sent a donation through the mail.
Yes.
Regular old-fashioned U.S. Postal Service. So thank you. And then we also had Beth Mulligan sent a toy for Fitzpickle.
That she loves.
Yes, which is in our living room right now, stuck to the floor.
It's driving him crazy, trying to get it off.
Yeah. And then we had a gift from Julia Villacorta, I believe. I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. And she sent a milk frother for like when you do, the fufu coffees.
That's right.
So there you go.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, and I was going to say, the only thing that Mary did wrong with her donation is that I usually tell people to send in small unmarked bills. She didn't do that, so it's okay, But thank you so much for the love and the support and the gifts.
Incredible. You guys are great.
It is just amazing.
My family was very jealous as we were opening up our gifts. They're like, hey, I need to start a YouTube channel. Like, yeah, we got the best fans. They're awesome. And I think of you guys more like friends than fans, so it's not the right word for it. All right, I'm going to stop because I'm going to keep on keeping on here.
Sign it, baby.
Let me.
No, you said you were going to stop.
Okay, I'm going to glaze one more time right here. Just a little bit on here.
I think that's your pants on fire right now.
And you're surprised? No.
No, not me.
Not. Get a little bit of green here. The green, a little bit of the burnt umber. Or burnt sienna, I should say. Sorry. Green, burnt sienna. And my glaze. And I'm just going to make sure this is dry and just glaze a little bit more. When I did the highlights. Oh, somebody else. Last minute. See, aren't you glad I waited?
This just in. Did it. I think that's how it used to go. We just got a donation from Cindy Utley. No special message, but her picture, she's wearing some sweet sunglasses, so
nice.
I think she's a pretty cool person.
Thank you, Cindy.
She said her message is, I love this painting.
Oh, yay. Very sweet. Thank you. I like it too. It turned out all right. All right, I'm going to stop because
all right, sign it.
Wants to go to bed sometime today.
Yeah. Spencer wants to do his homework.
Oh, yes. He doesn't want to do his homework, I should say. He has to do his homework. Let's be real. Alrighty, I think that's it. Thanks, guys, for watching today. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment if you want to see more paintings like this or have suggestions for something else. And you don't have side cam on, you still have the thank you. Do a little bit more glazing while I'm talking. Our schedule is up for September, so this is, I guess, the second we're actually partway into our Thursday $10 Patreon group. We're working on, doesn't look like much right now, but we're working on a blue door, Mediterranean blue door. If you want to join us for that, we've only done one session so far, so we've got time for you to join us for the last two sessions to finish that painting. They get their own special Facebook group too, and they also get to vote on the paintings that we do. So if you're like, I want to tell you what to paint, that's the group for you. And of course, I have to sign up on it. It's not like I'm like, tell me what to paint and I'll say yes to everything, but try to listen to my Patreon folks because they usually know what they're doing. They're our audience, so. And thank you to the folks in my Facebook group, my other Facebook group, the public one, that voted on this and submitted photos for my day in the life. We're going to actually be painting at least 1 to 2 more in those submissions, so those will be coming up sometime this fall. We've got lots of fun stuff that we're going to be painting, so hope you come and join us for those, and we will be back this Saturday. We're our first time back since this summer. We're going to be painting on Saturday, so yay, check that out. We'll what are we painting? Oh, we're painting a really pretty sunset field with the fence, so hope you guys hang in there with us on Saturday. It's 2 p.m. Saturday. So, all right, that's it. I'm going to stop fiddling with it. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time. Bye.